This is Bryan Rudnick, Rally for the Republic headquarters, coming to you moments after the big news of the day. Hunter Biden guilty on all 3 counts in his gun trial. The weather outside might be frightful, and Hunter saying, let's do some blow, let's do some blow, let's do some blow. And that's how we got into this mess, ladies and gentlemen. But we have more topics to discuss with you. We also have Joe Biden, his daddy, what it means, what happened to him yesterday, and Nancy Pelosi's big admission. We're still going to talk 2024 election. Anthony Blinken's shuttle diplomacy, which ain't working, and of course the judiciary. More after the break.
This is a battle cry for the American way of life and a relentless pursuit of truth and justice. It comes from a voice with unmatched experience and unyielding resolve. Join us as we dissect current events and tip the scales in your favor. This is Rally for the Republic with your host, Bryan Rudnick.
Bryan Rudnick back, Rally for the Republic. First topic of the day, Hunter Biden is guilty, and what does it mean? Let's face it. It's a bad day to be Hunter. It's a bad day to be Joe Biden. Hunter is exactly the kind of person his father's been trying to keep from owning a gun. The sales of firearms in America is one of the most regulated industries in our country, regardless of what the left tells you. Anybody who's ever purchased a firearm knows that. You ain't going anywhere in America to legally purchase a firearm without a background check. I don't care what the left says. And there's that form, that darn form that Hunter filled out incorrectly, that had he filled it out honestly, under the pains and penalties of perjury, he would never have received the gun that day. And the reality is, Hunter Biden should never have had a gun, and his trial would not have lingered this long, no matter how great his super lawyer Abe Lowell is, superstar attorney to everybody in D.C. who gets in trouble, or one of 2. But this whole fiasco, had his name not been Hunter Biden, would not have continued. Like so many individuals in America, he would have been sitting in a jail for 2 to 5 years already, probably would have done the time, probably would have been out. Wouldn't have given Donald Trump the layup that they just gave him. So brilliant. As Joe Biden is there, he's banning ghost guns. He's banning magazines. He's trying to ban pistol braces. He's trying to ban anything that you might want to protect yourself from a government run amok, just like our founding fathers intended. Yet his son becomes the poster child for criminal activity with a gun. How about the irony there? And of course, he got a sweetheart deal all this time to stay out of jail. And daddy's promising he's not pardoning him. Does anybody really believe Joe Biden is so righteous that he won't pardon his son? Come on. Let's just get with reality. But let's keep going with the important news of the day, because everybody will now be in every medium talking about how Hunter was screwed. Hunter got a good deal. This is justice as America expects it to be, just like Donald Trump and every other piece of baloney somebody wants you to hear in the news cycle, on cable news especially, so they can keep rolling. But what's even worse for Joe Biden is what happened to him yesterday. Early celebration at the White House, Juneteenth event, a made-up holiday, absolutely ridiculous. And it just gets worse, because Democratic pollster after Democratic pollster and Democratic pundit after Democratic pundit is coming out saying what supposedly independent Nate Silver, pollster to the stars of the left-wing media, believes, that Joe Biden should drop out. James Carville has even come out and said he's got a youth problem, so he's starting a PAC. We got a 70-something-year-old man starting a PAC to do outreach to the youth of America on behalf of the 80-something-year-old man running for president. And Doug Schoen, who advised the Clintons, he thinks it's a complete mess. He pretty much agrees the man needs to go. But what do you do? I mean, you got this guy and he's there and it's Juneteenth and he's celebrating and he's looking and he's staring, and then all of a sudden he freezes. He freezes. And Donald Trump, I believe, is attributed with saying the words that matter most. The lights are on, but nobody is home. Think about that. It's crazy. But you wonder why these pollsters are saying we've got to get rid of Joe Biden. He's the worst thing for the Democrats. You don't hear them saying put Kamala in his place. Isn't that something? The disapproval ratings are enough for the Democrat frontrunner to drop out of the election, Nate Silver says. An all-time low in approval rating, 37.4%. Just so you know, in general polling, if done correctly, when the incumbent starts dropping below 51%, we consultants get quite nervous. That means we're going to lose an election. That means you need some sort of change effect. You don't see that happening with Joe. He just stares into the abyss. And nobody is helping this poor old man. I mean, it's really like elderly abuse. And there was this, if you watch the video, you even see the Secret Service over on his right shoulder looking, going, oh my God, what do I do here? But what you could do there is your job, and you're doing it. And thank God there are brave men and women of the United States Secret Service out there doing their job. It's Jill Biden's fault. Heck, it's Hunter Biden's fault for probably putting him under the stress between the gun trial and the stripper baby mama and sleeping with your dead son's widow. And I mean, Hunter is just an amazing American. He can do no right. And now he'll pay for the crime, hopefully. Because the rest of us, law-abiding gun owners in America, we have to deal with these regulations. We have to stay in good standing as citizens of the United States in order to maintain our rights to own a firearm. So why did Hunter Biden get away? Think about that. If that doesn't tell you the deep state and the Biden connections rule the day, I don't know what does. But the Democrats want to remind you Donald Trump should also drop out because he's like a weird drunk, they say. Interesting. He's a weird drunk. He's pulling ahead of the president who has the bully pulpit. He's been accused of 1,000 crimes, yet he's ahead. So maybe he's not such a weird drunk. Stupid comments from stupid people. Adding to the list of stupidity today is Nancy Pelosi, and I take responsibility remarks that she discussed the National Guard absence, and they should have thought about it. They should have thought about it. Interesting. Does anybody realize that it was Donald Trump who actually told her that it was going to be wild that day? He told her to take the security seriously. He told her to do more. He asked her if she would like his help. But Nancy is so self-righteous. How dare she take help from that Donald Trump guy? No, she has to make fun of him. She can't look like she got a handout from Donald Trump. So let's sacrifice the country instead. Even though she thinks we have a responsibility, we do not have any accountability for what's going on there, she says in this video. It's ridiculous. You're going to ask me in the middle of the thing that we've already breached that should we call the Capitol Police? I mean, the National Guard. Why weren't the National Guard there to begin with? Because you told Donald Trump no. You committed treason. You committed the crimes that put people's lives in danger, lady, because you were just as out to lunch as Joe Biden. And now all of a sudden these memories are coming back to you. All of a sudden your dementia, your Alzheimer's, whatever problem you're suffering from, with your bugged out eyes and the lie after lies, you try to maintain a grasp on the United States Congress and just attack Donald Trump and blame it all on him. No, it was Nancy Pelosi's fault. So let's reinstitute some oversight committee against Nancy Pelosi and her failures as Speaker. She held that office longer than most people in the history of this country, and let's expose her for what she is, a failure. Yep, you heard her here. She is a failure. She committed the crimes. Let's send her to the same prison with Hunter. What do you think? Put something in the comments when you hear this and let me know what you think. But let's go back to the 2024 election and El Presidente, or do you want to just call him a dictator, Joe Biden, or whatever you think he is, with Joe Biden up his ass pulling the strings? Because there he was at the White House. Early Juneteenth celebration. It's unbelievable. We're hearing these African music and whatever else he said, and African values that are American values. And the pandering was at an all-time high, because if you thought he did a lot of it in the last 2 or 3 weeks, we're back from Normandy. We're inspired. We're going to pander mode, because that 37.4 disapproval rating needs to be picked up, or Kamala's kicking him out. So, from the man who brought you the super predators in 1994, that's what he referred to young black men as he was trying to pass a crime bill. Big speech, floor of the U.S. Senate. Let's not forget how he led the high-tech lynching of Clarence Thomas, how he referred to black parents as basically dumb and incompetent in the way they're raising their children, how he championed segregated busing in the 70s, how he eulogized a grand wizard of the KKK, Robert Byrd, at the funeral. But now he just panders to Black America to get the vote, to keep his clutch on power. So here he is, and, before he stares into the abyss, he gives a speech. And in this speech, a couple of key phrases get used. Very interesting. New speechwriter at the White House. They must have let him go after Normandy. And is from, you're the generation before you led the march from slavery to freedom toward more than a perfect union. But let's be clear, they're old ghosts in new garments trying to take us back. Well, there they are, taking away your freedoms, making it harder for Black people to vote or have your vote counted, closing doors on opportunity, attacking the values of diversity, equity, and inclusion. If you can believe in banning books about the Black experience in America, trying to erase and rewrite history, our history. It's not just about the past, it's about our present and our future, and whether that future is a future for all of us. Well, Joe, which part of history do you want them to learn? Your racist history or the whitewashed version? It isn't the GOP that's taken away their history. It isn't the GOP that's saying transgendered boys should participate in girls' sports, which will cause minority girls to lose college scholarships. No, Joe, those are your programs. The so-called values of diversity, equity, and inclusion, garbage. Garbage. You go woke, you go broke. These are terrible policies that are hurting minorities. They're hurting all Americans. We're all God's children. That means we are equal in the eyes of God. That means we should be treated equally in the eyes of the law. Yet you want special privileges and special laws for special people. Wrong. That's not American. No, it's not. And you're losing. And that's why you look like an idiot when you're not staring in the abyss, telling people about their pronouns and changing genders. Sorry, wrong. Black America ain't dumb anymore. No, not the way you call them. No. Black America is filled with wonderful people. They're Americans. Just like I'm an American, just like you're an American. Same thing for Latino Americans. They're Americans. They care about their economy. They care about law and order, securing a nation. They care about fixing the inflationary economy so they can put food on the table, gas in the car, and have health care for their family. So their pigment of their skin might be different than yours. So what? The concerns are the same. They wanted to be treated equally and fairly. They don't want special privileges. They just want to be treated as Americans. You're the one making them different with these ghosts in new garments clauses and phrases and whatever garbage you want them to think of. It's just asinine, quite frankly. It's truly offensive that we're in 2024. We have a president of the United States, or at least some man who stole the job, sits in the Oval Office, and he's going to tell us while he sends some guy around the world in shuttle diplomacy to explain to a bunch of Arabs in the Middle East that, hey, could you get into a deal with Israel? The UN's behind it now. And I know you people want to kill all the Jews in Israel, but could you guys stop just at enough time for me to win an election or steal the next one? This is asinine. They can't do this. Is not, as you can tell, I'm quite worked up about it. But this is not Henry Kissinger going to the Middle East like he did in the 70s. Okay. And other Secretary of States having to go around the world in the 80s and the 90s and beyond and solve problems, or sending former presidents and former UN ambassadors to places to solve problems. No, the Anthony Blinken rate of success is so bad that this man's playing guitar in bars in Kiev, because that's about all he's capable of doing. That's about all that the Biden administration is capable of having their people do. Rockets have been fired into Israel over and over and over again. And they want to talk about a ceasefire and ceasefire resolutions. Bullshit. Bomb the hell out of Gaza. Get the Americans out. Get the Israelis out. Get anybody out that doesn't belong there. Especially the people who are hostages, who are getting beaten and raped and are malnourished. Just we heard a doctor who treated them say the other day. Stop talking ceasefire. Talk rescue, because these people aren't getting released. No, They're not getting released by Hamas that wants to cut babies out of the womb. Sorry, that's not happening. And while you're talking about ceasefire, more boys and girls that belong to Israeli families are getting killed as they try to rescue their fellow Israelis, fellow men and women, other Americans that Joe Biden doesn't care enough to rescue because they're probably not a bunch of transgendered, bisexual, lesbian drug smugglers or something like that.
You are listening to Rally for the Republic with your host, Bryan Rudnick.
So let's move on to more hypocrisy and ridiculous things in the government of the great nation we live in. And so we can expose and identify what we need to do to take back our country and where things go wrong and how the left, of course, wants to blow everything out of proportion. So I live in Florida, as you probably already know, and I'm constantly looking at our courts. And Governor DeSantis has truly worked hard to demonstrate that Florida, like our founding fathers, wanted to have happen, would be a great experiment in democracy. And he's worked hard to appoint great judges to our courts. And for the most part, he has a tremendous track record. Truly does. One bad fit on the state Supreme Court, a true crook that we're going to talk about at another time, and she will be thrown off one day. You can be assured of that. I will make that happen. But in the meantime, let's talk about what's going on. We've got Florida courts, we've got state courts, we've got federal courts, and we've got a judge telling the state of Florida right now he wants an economic impact report on the abortion access, the effect of the abortion access amendment here in Florida, because we've got this 6-week abortion ban, topic for another time. But this judge thinks the best use of taxpayer dollars right now, let's have an economic impact report. Because instead of coming to Disney, instead of coming to NASA, instead of coming to see the beaches and the aquariums and the dolphins and anything else we have great, beautiful, and wonderful in the state of Florida, people might be coming here for abortion tourism, or they're no longer coming here for abortion tourism. Amazing. Crazy. I wonder how left that guy is. This is brought to you by the same kind of judges here in Florida who are on the federal bench, probably appointed by somebody other than a Donald Trump. And they've now blocked a Florida law requiring deeper financial disclosure for local officials. Now, this is something Governor DeSantis signed into law, and it was SB 774. And here in the Southern District, we have this Judge Melissa Damian, and claiming it violates the First Amendment rights of candidates and local elected officials, compelling content-based speech. Where they're coming from in this, obviously I haven't studied this entirely, but let's face it, the voters want to know how dirty their politicians are. That's why we have financial disclosures. Financial disclosures are a must. So they've got to divulge their net worth, the value of household goods, detailing their assets, liabilities over $1,000. I think that's super important. It is absolutely important to know whether or not your public official is going to be a crook. And how do you know? Just like you don't get security clearances in our federal government if you're in debt, shouldn't you be worried about how a politician could be swayed if their whole life is mired in debt? And you've got to itemize every source of income above $1,000. Okay, well, some of these jobs are full-time jobs, so if you've got other income sources, it's kind of important. And if you don't, okay, it shouldn't be that unduly burdensome. And it took effect in January. Mayors, city council members, some of whom those are full-time jobs, they're required to file one form. And they've got to list significant sources of income, intangible personal property over $10,000, and real estate holdings and liabilities of more than $10,000. That seems reasonable. Mayors and city council members impact things related to real estate, like zoning laws, other things that could impact the value of real estate. Some of these people have made holding political office a career, a means by which they can get wealthy. Let me give you an example. I'm on Facebook late yesterday, and here comes an ad, one of the many ads. Thank God it wasn't something off the charts that I usually have to hit the hide button for, or tell them, please don't show me these Democrat ads anymore, or whatever else ungodly things are showing up. And there's an ad for law firm Conrad and Scher, trial lawyers. And I see the picture and below some quote. It's retired Judge Elizabeth Scher, partner Conrad and Scher, trial lawyers. They forget to tell you, Elizabeth Scher, whose quote is, "The thorough pursuit of the justice in the legal system should apply equally whether the case involves many parties with a large audience or simply two individuals with nobody else watching." Kind of stupid, but that's most legal ads. But even more important, retired Judge Elizabeth Scher is now running Daddy's law firm. And when she was Judge Elizabeth Scher, she oversaw a very significant case here in the state of Florida where she was practically kicked off the bench. But Conrad and Scher is your partner in high-end complex litigation, beacon of legal experience for over 50 years. They got all sorts of experience. Retired Judge Elizabeth Scher, known for her role in the Parkland shooting trial, emphasizes our commitment to meticulous preparation and trust in every case. Now we get to the important quote. "As a judge, it was imperative to be thoughtful and prepared on the cases before me in my decision-making to instill trust and confidence in both parties and the public. In moving to private practice, my role has changed, but the need for my preparedness in my cases remains." Interesting choice of words, especially the decision-making to instill trust and confidence. Okay, let's talk about instilling trust and confidence. Here was a circuit court judge, Broward County, Florida, Parkland school shooting case, put her on the map. This is, for those who don't know, Broward County, Fort Lauderdale. That's the major city there. This is a judge who decided to signal to the prosecutor what a great job they did in the case and gave a hard time to the defense counsel, who was a public defender, I believe. And it was so bad that the 46-year-old former prosecutor, it was her first time capital murder case, and she showed that judges do not have stone cold objectivity. And she really publicly tipped her hat to the state prosecutor. And it got her practically thrown off the bench. And people had to publicly admonish her actions because she was not adhering to the principles of objectivity that is so important. The Judicial Qualifications Commission had recommended the unanimous decision in June. They found she had violated several rules of judicial conduct in the case by her treatment of the public defense attorneys. She sentenced the guy to life imprisonment, even though they couldn't agree on the death penalty. But her behavior was inappropriate in an important trial. Her job should ensure due process, order, and decorum, and always act with dignity and respect in order to promote the integrity, impartiality, and independence of the judiciary. She failed, so now she's readily available to be your attorney with all her good decision-making and her preparation for the case. If that's what you want, a judge who had to leave the bench in shame, she's available. I bet she charges $500 an hour to be an embarrassment to her family. And possibly you if she's representing you. But I bet if you really need an attorney who knows a few other judges in Broward County, she'd be the great one to hire to get some doors open for you. Just a thought. Okay, on to the last topic of the day, and we're going to try to do this as quickly as we can. Liberal media going crazy once again about Justice Alito. Washington Post probably has somebody seated outside his house, his car, his vacation home, his bathroom, wherever his wife goes. They're tailing this man like he's a candidate for the United States Congress. And it's amazing. So Justice Alito and his wife and others, they're at this event in June. It's called the Supreme Court Historical Society. They had an annual dinner June 3rd. If you weren't there, you're probably a nobody when it comes to the Supreme Court. Thank God I didn't have to wear a tux that night. And let's remember the Supreme Court justices, the men and women of the Supreme Court, who we are entrusting to make the best decisions that will impact the future of our nation. Hopefully do not think like Judge Elizabeth Scher. There's a little more stone cold impartiality. But at the end of the day, they are trained and they are guided to be analytical, thoughtful, have principles. But what we're learning is they were secretly recorded by a liberal filmmaker. And it shows that there's hardball political tactics at the court. Oh my gosh. Golly jeepers, Batman. The Supreme Court justices have opinions. Whoa, I'm shocked. Breaking news. The justices of the United States Supreme Court have opinions. They have thoughts. They're not robots. They're not a bunch of AI creations. They have opinions. So they said amazingly crazy stuff like one side or the other is going to win in a private conversation that liberals decided to record. How appropriate. I believe there was a law broken there. I think you're probably right, he responded. On one side or the other is going to win. I don't know. I mean, there can be a way of working, a way of living together peacefully, but it's difficult, because there are differences on fundamental things that really can't be compromised. They really can't be compromised, so it's not like you're going to split the difference. Wow. Breaking news. The justices of the Supreme Court sound like the average common sense American who wishes politicians would stop bickering. Heck, they'd be okay not having to adjudicate cases of politicians bickering. They'd like Americans to get along. They'd like to live in a peaceful country. This is so horrible. How dare he think we should live in a peaceful country? How is AOC going to get anywhere if we can't fight and attack the right? And he later agreed with the sentiment that people must fight to return our country to a place of godliness. Shocker. You should have biblical values in a country founded on biblical values. And if this is a problem for the left, which we all know it's a problem for the left, this is why our country has degraded and why we must fight to reclaim our republic. Joe Biden took an oath of office and swore under God. Donald Trump did too. So did just about every member of Congress, except for maybe Rashida Tlaib and Ilhan Omar. And most presidents of the United States are sworn in on a very well-known, very famous Bible. Sometimes it's George Washington's Bible or Abraham Lincoln's. Pretty sure Barack Obama did the same. He upset a few of his Muslim friends and relatives, but hey, he did it. What's the point I'm getting at is we're spending way too much time focused on nonsense. Can't be pulled into this garbage with the left. Hunter Biden went down. Now we need to make sure to stick it to the left. Because Joe Biden said just a couple weeks ago, justice served, 12 Americans heard the case, just like the rest of us, blah, blah, blah. I'm not going to pardon my son until about the last day, right before Donald Trump comes back into this building. And America's got a mess because we're stuck. Shuttle diplomacy with a Secretary of State who can do no right. Supreme Court justices who are apparently horrible people because they believe in godliness. And President of the United States who thinks he should pander to any minority in America in order to keep his job when nobody likes him. Because why? Everything is too damn expensive. So you can try to tell us that Donald Trump's showing up in a KKK hood, but guess what? If they can afford their food, they're probably saying, goodbye, Joe. See you later. Nice knowing you. They might even not get that far. So thank you again for joining me on the 4th episode of Rally for the Republic, where Hunter Biden got his day in court and justice might have been served. And hopefully somebody is going to be smart enough to say, hold Nancy Pelosi accountable, put her in jail where she belongs for the multiple crimes she's committed across this country, and let freedom ring. Thank you. God bless you. And as we all know, tomorrow's another day where we get to take back our country. So let's rally for the Republic. And thank you again for listening.
Thank you for joining us on Rally for the Republic, where we are fighting for America's future. Visit 1776coalition.com. Rally for the Republic podcast is available on Spotify, Amazon, Apple, and Google Podcasts. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and download. Join Bryan Rudnick next time as we continue to fight for the American way of life and challenge the hypocrisy. This is Rally for the Republic.